I'm Jamie Dove, and today I'm going to talk about glazes, expectations, and disappointments. Expectations and disappointments. Glazing. All right, so this glaze was part of that test glaze firing that I did, and I was really excited about it, and I still am, don't get me wrong. And that's, I guess, where the expectation part comes in, because I saw the test tiles, I showed you the test tiles, and I did have an expectation of having glazes turn out very similar to the test tiles. I know that most of those tiles are made with white clay. I use like a little brown clay here, a little different color, kind of a sandy looking color there. But I know that there's going to be some differences. I know it's not going to be picture perfect, just like you see in the catalogs. Now, with a glaze like this, my expectation was, seaweed, just like that really cool picture with the runs and the colors and the breaks, and I put it on really thin. Normally, I'm a dunker. Not this time, because I just got a little amount and I brushed it on. Well, that's not what I normally do. So I'm not really good at brushing, can you tell? I do brush stuff like to add, not as a primary coat. And if you were to look at that, you would say, my gosh, that is just horrible. And it is. I should do better than that. Anyway, a majority of my stuff came out underglazed. Fired nice. There's a nice finish on here, don't get me wrong. It's very nice. There's no pinholes, there's no bubbles. So as far as the glaze reacting well with the clay, definitely think this will work. And I do have other examples of this that did work. Now, that's the big thing. A lot of times you see those pictures and you get those expectations in your head. And then when the glaze comes out, you open that kiln and you see that piece and you're like, what? And I did it. I did. And I should totally ignore a lot of the pieces. I put some pieces in there, but the most important things that I should look at are the test tiles. Because even though some of the glazes I had were just pints, I actually dunked the test tiles into the little jar. So that did give me a good representation of what the glaze will do. Like this one here, this is Albany Slip Brown, and it's really cool. It's got like this darker brown, and then this little creamy stuff that just kind of gooey runs. It's kind of like it's like a cinnamon bun or something there. Yeah, I could eat this. And what else? And then this is the Celadon. I told you before, I'm a sucker for a good green, and the Celadon being that clear, glassy looking on top and color underneath. And I know it's going to be a little bit darker because it is a dark clay body, or darker clay body. But I like the way that it pooled up down in the bottom, right down there in the bottom. See, it's nice and light at the top, but then inside it, can we get in there? And then it gets a little, can we do that? I'm like looking at there. See how it gets kind of dark on the inside? Looks really cool. I'll see if I can get a better shot of that. But just the way that it ran and it fit the clay itself looked really good. And then this is the seaweed, which I still have a lot of hope for. And it did, like I said, it did turn out pretty well on some other pieces. So it's got the green and then the little silver flashing in there. And then it once again settled into the crevices very nicely. And then some other examples. My Little Mermaid. She turned out great. Look at that. Mermaid. So, and then my name stamp. And that's with glaze, wiped off it. Just glazed it and wiped. And that looks pretty cool. I like that. Another thing that I did, just for the fun of it, I had this piece that I made about a year ago. When did I make it? Yep, a year ago. Actually, yeah, a year ago. Anyway, this chunk blew off it, so my little motif was blown. I didn't feel like doing it, a fake thing and gluing it back on, so I kept it. I just kept this piece. And I said, you know what, I'm going to use it for something. And sure enough, came around, this was a great test piece because I've got like a nice clay body, we're nice and smooth, but I've also got the textured pieces from all these different tiles that are on there. And it worked out perfectly, putting all the different glazes on there. So I got to see what they would do and what they wouldn't do. So happy with the way that turned out. And then this guy, this is the Celadon. And once again, I'm not really good at the brush. Look at that, that's horrible. But I can see where how the glaze is gonna work really, really well. I like the color. I'm lacking the depth in this piece just because that was my fault. But I learned, see, because I did this, I made the mistake, I know what I did wrong, so in the future, either I have to brush a lot heavier, I'll just be dunking. It's just so much easier that way. And once again, I like the way that settled right here, like in the crevices. You know, any places that glaze could run and gather, it got dark and it looks really nice. So it kind of makes its own natural outline of Senior Dolphin. Look at that guy. Bam. So that's kind of cool. That's just the glaze itself. Anyway. Love this guy. Now this is a piece that I'm not going to do all the pieces. This is just a couple of them. This piece is what it's textured amber brown is what this is. I think there was a textured amber and a textured amber brown, and I don't know what drew me to this, but this looks kind of like a root beer, like one of them little root beer candies if you look at it. Now I did not put it on thick enough, but I sprayed it on this piece, and it fired well. It really, really did. Nice and smooth. There's no pinholes in it. There's just a, you can tell that I just, on the inside here, it's undersprayed. On the bottom around the foot, it's a little undersprayed, a little thin. Could use a little more. But it's kind of nice even just spraying it on. If that's your intention, you could definitely get like a nice stained effect on there. That's actually pretty cool because, you know, when you spray it, you're just like, you're just laying it on there. But around the shoulder and around the belly here, I just sat there and just sprayed that thing. And it's really, I mean, if you see it on a shelf from across the room, you're going to go, oh, look at that black piece of pottery over there. But if you hold it in your hands and you look under light, even better if you stand out in the daylight and you look at it, you can actually see the depth in the glaze. It sounds crazy, but I mean, maybe a millimeter, but you're going, wow, look at that depth. It's like a pool. You just want to dive right in, except for it's brown. You go, oh, this is awesome. Anyway, so that's really it. You know, it's like you've got to really kind of take into consideration your expectation of the glaze, the reality of the glaze, and don't think of it as a disappointment. And that was my issue. Honestly, for 3 days, I'm just sitting there going, man, I really hated the way that turned out. I was really upset. I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, you know, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix this? Well, the way to fix it is, you know what, figure out what you did wrong and then move forward from there. It's a learning process. It's a learning experience. You know, that's kind of what pottery is, you know. It's an exact science, sure. It's an art form, sure. But for me, it's all about the process. And, you know, as far as me kind of rebooting the business, it's like, okay, what color palette am I going to work with? What glazes are going to work with the clay that I use? You know, I got to take all that into consideration. So there's a lot of expectation, you know, and then potentially there's a lot of disappointment. So I try not to see it that way. I just try to see it as, hey, this is what I did right. This is what I did wrong. Let's do more of that right thing and less of that wrong thing. And you know what? We're going to be moving in a positive direction. So anyway, that's really all I got to say about that.